The VR headset promised a horror game, but it delivered something far darker. Something that followed me out of the game, lurking in every shadow, waiting for me to put it on again. The VR Experience, submitted by David Lee. I've always been obsessed with tech and gaming, so when my friend Keisuke from Tokyo invited me to try out a new VR horror game he discovered, I couldn't resist. We met through esports. He was a top-tier player from Japan, and I was his counterpart in the US. We'd been teammates for years, but this time it wasn't a game that brought us together. It was something much darker. Keisuke told me over a late-night chat that there was something about this VR experience that wasn't right. It's supposed to be a horror demo, but people are saying they've had strange experiences, he said, his voice lowering like he didn't want anyone else to hear. I laughed. Come on, it's VR. What could possibly be so bad? It's not real. Keisuke was quiet for a moment before replying. It feels real. That was enough to intrigue me. I booked a flight to Tokyo, more excited than nervous. After all, horror games were my thing. We used to compete in horror-themed tournaments, scaring each other for laughs. But the minute I walked into Keisuke's apartment and saw the VR headset sitting on his coffee table, I could feel a shift. There was something off, something unsettling. The headset looked normal enough, but when I picked it up, I noticed an unfamiliar symbol engraved on the side. A spiraling logo that gave me a weird sense of deja vu. Keisuke handed me the controllers, his expression unreadable. You sure about this, David? I grinned. Let's do this. With the headset on, the world went dark for a few seconds. Then, the environment loaded. I found myself standing in the middle of an old, abandoned Japanese house. The walls were cracked, and the floors creaked beneath my feet. The level of detail was insane. It didn't feel like a game. It felt like I'd been dropped into another world. I walked down a dimly lit hallway, the sound of my virtual footsteps echoing through the space. The shadows shifted eerily, and I could hear the faint sound of wind chimes in the distance. For a horror demo, it was pretty tame until I saw her. A figure stood at the end of the hallway, motionless, facing away from me. She was wearing a traditional white yukata, and her long, dark hair hung over her shoulders, obscuring her face. Instinctively, I reached for the controls to interact with her, but something stopped me. Keisuke, I muttered. What's with the woman? But there was no response. I watched as the woman slowly turned around, her movements unnaturally slow, her face hidden behind a veil of hair. My stomach knotted. Something wasn't right. I took a step back and suddenly I couldn't move. My legs were frozen in place. The woman took a step toward me, her hair parting just enough to reveal pale, lifeless skin. I couldn't tear my eyes away from her. Her presence felt suffocating, the air around me growing thick. I tried to rip off the headset, but my hands wouldn't respond. Keisuke, I shouted, panic rising in my chest. The woman came closer, and I could see her face more clearly now. Her eyes were hollow, dark pits, and her mouth stretched into a twisted grin. She raised one hand, reaching toward me. The room flickered. I felt something cold graze my arm, and I screamed. The headset was yanked off. Keisuke stood in front of me, looking pale. What happened, man? You were only in there for a minute. I was drenched in sweat, my heart racing. That wasn't just a game, I said, my voice shaking. It felt real. Keisuke frowned. Most people just see the house. You saw her, didn't you? I nodded, too shaken to speak. Something about that experience had crossed a line. It wasn't just VR, it was something else. Something I couldn't explain. Over the next few days, I tried to forget about it. But I couldn't. The image of the woman in the yukata haunted me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her standing at the end of that hallway, waiting. It was like she had followed me out of the game. And then, strange things started happening. One night, as I lay in bed, the lights in Keisuke's apartment flickered. I sat up, my heart pounding. The power had been fine all night, but now the room was plunged into darkness, and the faint sound of wind chimes drifted through the open window. Did you hear that? I asked, hoping Keisuke would say it was just the wind. But then I heard it again, the dragging sound, the same sound from the game, like something was being pulled across the floor. Keisuke appeared in the doorway, his face pale. It's her. Before I could respond, the lights came back on, and there she was, standing in the corner of the room, her yukata fluttering in an invisible breeze. My breath caught in my throat. Keisuke, we need to get out of here, I whispered, frozen in place. But he didn't move. His eyes were locked on her. I don't think we can. The woman took a step forward, her hair shifting, revealing her hollow, soulless eyes. I grabbed Keisuke's arm, yanking him toward the door. We stumbled out of the apartment, my heart pounding in my chest. The last thing I heard before we slammed the door behind us was the faint sound of something dragging along the floor. We left the apartment that night and didn't go back. But the horror didn't stop there. No matter where I went, I could feel her watching me. I'd catch glimpses of her in reflections, in the corners of dark rooms, always just out of reach. Keisuke was worse. He became paranoid, convinced that she was still in the VR headset, waiting for someone else to put it on. He stopped sleeping, barely ate. The last time I saw him, he was a shadow of his former self, too afraid to turn on his computer, let alone play another game. And me? I haven't touched VR since. But every now and then, when I'm alone in the dark, I hear the faint sound of wind chimes. And I know she's still there, waiting for someone else to find her.